Na 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 na, na 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 na, hey. You know it. Na 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 na, na 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 na, hey. Are you singing it? One more time. Na 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 na, na 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 na, hey. The sound. So I changed it up on you that last round because today we're talking about the sound, which of course we need to say na 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 na, na 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 na, hey, goodbye. Hello everybody, it's Rebecca Robbins here from Mind Shaper SLP, coming at you today with part 6 of our sound series. I can't believe we're at part 6 already, and today we're talking about the sound. And I'm going to tell you all about how to cue it, what makes up this sound in terms of a speech perspective, give you some tips and tricks on how to help your child be able to say these sounds, and of course give you some suggestions for some activities that you can engage with your child, because after all, I want to keep things functional for you, because I want you to be able to watch this video and then just go try one of the activities I suggested. Because just rolling up our sleeves and getting down and dirty with our child, that's when we actually make some progress, right? So let's just jump right down into it. Like I said, we're talking about the sound today. And as you can see, I've already been cueing it. Now, I don't know if you saw the video, but in that video, we learned all about a type of sound called a nasal sound. So, is a nasal sound. And that's why the cue is touching your nose. And what's a nasal sound? Basically, a nasal sound is any sound that has airflow going through the nasal cavity when you produce it, or what's called nasal resonance. So for most sounds that we produce, there's a little thing in the back of our throat, in the nasopharynx, if you want to get technical, actually closes off the airway to the nose, so no airflow goes through. But for certain sounds, like the n sound or the sound, we actually want that nasal resonance to go through, and that's why they're called nasal sounds. This is also why when you're really congested and stuffed up with a cold, you have a hard time saying your sound, and it might sound more like a duh. So you just learned a little something, right? So in my hand cue system, if there is a nasal sound, there's always one part of the cue that involves touching the nose. And with the sound, the whole cue is just your one index finger touching your nose. And then the other part of it is that your child can actually see your tongue going up, and it's the combination of the visual of what your tongue is doing in your mouth and your finger touching your nose that will help cue your child to make the sound. So in Nonverbal No More, all of our sounds have little picture cues that go with them and fun little nicknames, because it's just another strategy and cueing strategy that helps our children learn how to say these sounds. So the sound is called the motorcycle sound, because if we go it can sound like a motorcycle, so that's why it's called the motorcycle sound. Okay, so up until now, we have covered the bilabial sounds, which are the sounds that are made with our two lips. So that's b, p, and w. And then last week, we covered the H sound. So this sound, the sound this week, is the first time that we're actually moving inside of our mouth to produce a sound. And the sound is made with two articulators, the tongue tip and what's called the alveolar ridge. So I want you to do a little experiment with me and take your tongue. I'm going to explain it first and then do it, because it's going to be hard for me to do both at the same time. So you're going to take your tongue and run it up behind your top front teeth, and you're going to feel a hard ridge behind there, and keep moving your tongue back, and you're going to feel the roof of of your mouth go up. So that hard ridge before the roof of your mouth goes up, that's called the alveolar ridge. So I'm going to do it right now. That's a lovely view of me, right? That's the alveolar ridge, and that is where we produce our n sound. It's our tongue tip touching the alveolar ridge, paired with some airflow going through the nose. So it's n, 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 n. So why the n sound is somewhat visible because we can make, our child can see our tongue going up to the alveolar ridge. It's a little less visible than the b and the p sounds, but it is still considered an early developing consonant sound, which means that it is one of the first sounds to develop in typical speech development, and it's one of the first sounds that we like to target when we're teaching a child who's still learning how to gain control of their mouth structures to produce a speech. So what are some tips and tricks if your child isn't able to say the n sound? And I'm going to, once again, I'm going to say, in my hand cueing system, you, the adult, do the cue on yourself, and your child imitates your cue. So it's n. You would go n, n, and your child would imitate it. If your child is not able to do that, is not able to imitate that sound just like that, there are some strategies that you can implement to try. A lot of times that getting that tongue up to that alveolar ridge is a difficult motor movement for kids that are having a difficult time producing speech. So they might need a little sensory input to help. And there's a couple ways you can do this. You could use one of those little dum-dum lollipops. And if you have your child, kind of lick it a couple times so that it kind of releases the flavor. It's a little wet, and so it releases the flavor. And then you rub it on the tip of their tongue first, and then you rub it behind the top teeth on the alveolar ridge. But it's important to do the tip of the tongue and then the alveolar ridge in that sequence, because that's going to give the sensory input, and then the flavor that's on the lollipop is going to get on the spots in the mouth that you want to meet. And it's going to help the child know where to bring the tongue. And it's going to, they're going to just be naturally wanting to lick that spot on the top of their roof of their mouth, because it has that flavor there and it has that sensation because you just rubbed it. So then you could try that. You touch the tip of their tongue with the lollipop, and then you rub it behind their teeth, the upper teeth on the alveolar ridge, and then have them go n, n. Once their tongue is up there, say n, n. And it might take some time and some attempts, like some practice, some consistent practice with doing this. I like to do 10 consecutive times in a row and keep doing that. Keep doing that for like 2 weeks straight. And if you're just seeing no movement at all after 2 weeks with that strategy, then it's time to abandon ship and try something different. But what you might see over time, if like once a day, 10 times in a row, you practice that lollipop tongue to the tongue tip to the alveolar ridge, 10 times in a row, that repetition is going to help build that motor pattern for the child. And if you start seeing some progress, it's helpful if you keep track, keep data, so you can actually see the numbers. Then that means it's working and your child is getting closer to being able to imitate the n sound. Another thing you can do if you're not game on giving your child a lollipop or the sugar is you could just use some sort of a vibrating toothbrush, or they have these little toothettes that we order in the speech therapy world. I know a company named Super Duper. You can order a whole box of them for not that much. But same strategy. You just give the sensory input on the tongue and then on the roof of the mouth, and then you have your child say n once their tongue gets up to the alveolar ridge. So there you go. There's some tricks that you can use if your child is not able to say the n sound just in imitation of you right away. So hopefully that will help lead your child to be able to get to say the n sound independently. So some activities you can use, or some words that are good to work on with the n sound, is teaching your child to say no. So kids love to say no, right? And I actually made a whole video on strategies and little games that I play to teach kids how to say no. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll reshare that on my page so it's like right up at the top for you. So you can, when you finish watching this one, you can go check that one out too. But I like to try to keep it really silly. So let me just show you how you would cue the word no. So it's a combination of the N and the O. So to cue it, it looks like this. No, 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 no. So I use two different cues for the vowel sound, which if you go back to my part 1 of the sound series, you'll see all about the different vowel cues. So you could use whichever one works best for your child. I tend to use this one. I find that it works the best for me and my students. So it's no. And if you cue your child to say no in imitation and they say it, you can act real silly and be like, hey, don't you tell me no. Or if your child asks for something, you can purposely give them the wrong thing, and the sillier the better, and then cue them to say no, and then you just act like, oh no, that's not the right one. Oh man, let me try again. But again, watch that no video for all of those tips and tricks on how to make learning no fun for your child. Another good word to target, because it's got two, it's a VC syllable, is the word on. So ah tends to be a fairly easy vowel for kids to say because it's just a matter of opening your mouth and vocalizing. Ah. So the word on looks like this. On, on, on. And that is a good word to teach your child because there are lots of opportunities for your child to request on, especially in our day and age in the world of technology. So if your child's watching a video on the iPad, you can turn the iPad off and they have to say on to get the iPad to turn back on. The more opportunities you give your child to say this word, the better. So as long as your child's not going to get like really upset if you do this, then you can go ahead and turn off that iPad multiple times while they're sitting there watching their show or their video. So that's multiple times they have to say on. Or you can do that, play a little game with the light switches and turn the lights off and on. Turn the lights off, and then your child has to request on to get the lights to turn on. You can work on getting dressed. When you're getting dressed, you can even just model it for your child. So you could say pants on, shirt on, socks on. And then when you have established that pattern with your child, then what I want you to do is stop when instead of saying on, you're going to stop and see if your child will fill it in. Because sometimes what happens is if your child gets used to hearing the same repetitive phrase over and over and over again, this is where we can really capitalize on our kids' insistence on sameness, that rigidity that they can sometimes have. If they're used to hearing something a certain way, it might just cause the word to pop out. Sometimes that does happen. So if every time you're getting dressed, you're using that same speech pattern over and over and over again. You're saying pants on, shirt on, shoes on. And then the next day, once they're used to that pattern, you would say pants and pause and see if your child could do it. If they don't do it within like 3 to 5 seconds, then you say it. And then try again. Shirts, not shirts. I guess we just put one on at a time, right? Shirt. Wait that 3 to 5 seconds and then on. And just make that part of your daily routine when you're getting your child dressed. The other thing is if your child is into playing with cars or vehicles, you can use the n sound as the engine, just like I did when I showed you the motorcycle sound picture. And what I like to do is turn it into a sensory activity for my students, and I actually drive the car on their arm or on their belly or on their leg. and it gives them a nice sensory input or tickle. If you do it on the back of the neck, it might be like a tickly kind of thing that they like. And then they can say na to request the na, the car. You say na while you do the car. So that's just another way you can incorporate the sound. So there you go. That's all. I bet you didn't know there's so much to learn about the n sound. Thanks for joining me for my little sing-along in the beginning. As you can tell, I'm very musical. It's the actress in me. And I like to find some catchy way to help draw you guys into the video. It's fun for me, and I hope it's fun for you. So if you would like to get on my interest list for Nonverbal No More, the best way to do that is to download my free video tutorial of Teach Your Child to Say Hi and Bye. Not only will you get the free video tutorial of how to teach your child these words, but you'll also be on the list and the first to know when enrollment opens for my program, Nonverbal No More, where you'll get access to the entire Nonverbal No More hand cue system and protocol, which is like a guided map that shows you exactly how to work with your child in your own home. You get access to a community of parents who are also working the program just like you, and access to me. So that's bit.ly/sayhibye. Thanks so much for joining me. Comment below, let me know what was your favorite part of the video, what was your favorite takeaway, or what are some N words that you're gonna try working on with your child. Have a great day, guys. Bye.